Hey, it's Ed O'Keefe, and welcome to another edition of the Ed O'Keefe Show. I have something really special in store for you today with my buddy Nick Shackelford and this CEO of PupSocks, Zach Zellner. If you hear screaming in the background, it's because I'm in the backyard watching my kids play tennis on our sport court. And there's like 8 kids trying to play in one location. Anyhow, so this is a great example of if you have a great idea, if you are willing to take strategic risks, and if you also get the right people to do the right things, great things can happen really quickly. So it may be a little technical, meaning they're going to be talking about Facebook ads and they're talking about PupSocks. PupSocks is a company that you send in a picture of your dog or your puppy and you post it online, and they make actual socks, just like the name of the company says. It's really your dog. So anyhow, in this episode, you'll hear how they grew it and how they did over $4 million in, I think it was 45 days, maybe, something like that. You'll hear the stats and everything that went into it. It's pretty amazing what they did. Brilliant guys. And Nick will be speaking at my next Traffic Mastery Live event, which we'd love to have you out in Nashville if that is right up your alley. Either way, hope you enjoy this. And yeah, that's it. Let's get started with the show.
We didn't actually pull it off. I mean, there were a lot of issues, and there's a story there. But to get that done, you need some resources on it. And making sure that we had that is what was critical to build this out.
So I want to talk about a little bit of the structures before we actually got into scaling. For me as a brand for me as an agency, right away we attacked low-hanging fruit. Ezra's 100% correct. You start with that purchase data. And no one talks enough about this, but I focus on naming convention, especially when you work with yourself, especially when you work with a team, and you work with a team that's remote. If you don't have a naming convention for you to navigate at this much spend, pushing this much volume, you're never going to find success. Everybody being on the same page. What day is your campaign launch? Where is this running? What placement? If you're not understanding what dollars or how big your audience is, there's no chance you're going to be able to hit this spend at this time.
And our primary ad account now has 3,900 ad sets, which is a slight increase from the 6 that I had before.
Very good point. There's no way you're navigating that. So we definitely utilized.
Hey, Nick, real quick question. When you say naming convention, are you kind of talking about like I've heard James has talked before about how he names all of his ad sets and all his campaigns. Are you saying just crystal clarity amongst what all those ad sets mean for speed and for testing and optimization?
Correct. So there's a search and filter portion that not many people utilize. We label it. I'll get into it. I actually have a picture of it, but every agency, every person has their own style. They can do dashes, they can do spaces, they can do backslash, forward slashes. But as long as it indicates what audience, what day it was launched, what placement, and how big the audience is, that's how you're going to find true speed, especially working with a team of, which we had was 8 multiple media buyers in at once. So when we started, now this is a touchy subject with that release that just happened of uploading custom audiences and no longer getting that feedback back. Back in the day, you could actually upload it, you could find out where your purchases were from. So we started with the low-hanging fruit, 1% lookalike audiences we will always launch with. We will always turn to remarketing right away because that's usually where the most purchases you're going to get. What we like to do is we like to break it out with 1 day add to cart, 1 day initiate checkout, exclude kind of what Ezra talked about, go to 5 day, 14 day, etc. And obviously the best performing creative. You'll see the creative that we used here. It ain't sexy. It's not a thumb stopper, but it produced a lot of purchases. And when you see it, I actually want to get a raise of hands, would you click on this or not? So I'm going to try to go through that there. And obviously the first thing is account spending limit, raise that. If you know your goal is to spend $1 million, Zach can get into what we actually had to go through headache-wise in terms of getting that cash to us, was if you're not going to get the raised ad account, which is kind of why we had to go to 4 ad accounts to pull this off, it's just very, very critical. And then our naming convention. So agency brand, the way this relationship works is full transparency. A lot of brands don't understand necessarily what's happening on the marketing, especially when they outsource it. So if they can have an insight to okay, why you're doing what you're doing, he's going to feel more confident in letting me spend all that money, right? So and then vice versa internally, find out where my team is putting those dollars. At scale, it makes perfect sense. So how we always structure all of our campaigns, we have prospecting manual bids, re-engagement, remarketing. difference between re-engagement and remarketing for us is remarketing has already seen the website. They've gone a little further down the funnel. So if I would have to detail it out, it would be at the very top, prospecting, re-engagement. They haven't touched my site yet. They've only seen my ads, they've engaged in my stuff. But then we get remarketing, they've already been familiar, very, very familiar. And then we get into the naming convention. So you can see at the bottom, date was launched. The reason why the date launched for me is so important is because after a certain amount of days, if that budget's been exhausted, if the ROAS is where I want it, I know there's a scale there. And how big that is, depending on the audience size, if there's scale there, I can push through. If it's only 100,000 people, there's no way you're getting scale. That you're going to burn through that, especially at the budget to push it. And then obviously labeling with the creative and the targeting.
Yeah, this is kind of the core of my piece here. I think there's somewhat of a misnomer when you look at marketing versus entrepreneurship, or media buying or digital marketing. Getting this kind of scale requires you to move well outside of you answering customer service emails, or figuring out production, or staying up all night to talk to China, or whatever. Okay. Approaching it at this level is different because you are forced to treat it like a business, whereas it's so easy to sell products online and be a one-man band. For us, what that meant was buying 24 large format Epson printers, these big commercial-looking printers, and actually needing to fly someone to Michigan to drive a truck down because FedEx was late, or then we had one FedEx truck crash with our own printers and fighting with the insurance. Is doing whatever you have to do in that way. Product volume is another funny thing. We ran out of socks. We literally exhausted the entire polyester socks floor. There were plenty of socks, but it's a complicated thing. Don't worry about me, but we ran out of socks. And that is a simple mistake that could have been avoided because I threw out a number to Nick, not expecting him to hit it, and didn't spend money on inventory because I was just hoping to do half of what Comment had promised, not double. So we're about 4x off, in terms of preparation. And then getting to scale. I mean, running it like a business. At the end of the day, all I care about are numbers, which mean numbers from my customer support team, what customer service metrics look like in terms of productivity, in terms of their feedback from customers, what our production volume looks like, what our inventory looks like. That's what we live and die by. And that kind of goes on with living inside of Google Analytics, right? E-commerce is the core of what we do, and at this scale, a 3.9% conversion rate versus a 4.2% conversion rate makes a massive, massive difference in that level of traffic. So it's about obsessive detail to the numbers.
So we had to kind of lay that structure. That wasn't super sexy, I'm sorry about that, but it gives you a little bit of understanding of what we actually had to do on platform to make things work. So for me, it was automatic bids to manual bids, gender and placement isolation. People really talk against this, but the goal of this, remind you, was spend $1 million+ at a 4x, which means some of our issues when you have big spenders is you don't get delivery. There's an issue with delivery, right? By breaking it out, it's super contradictory because yes, it's going to feed, the converters are going to come all together, your CPMs are lower, kind of what we just talked about. But my issue was Facebook's going to find who's converting for you, and they're just going to continue to hit that person over and over and over. When there's, as I'll show later on, I want other segments, right? Like it might be converting a little less often, or the ROAS might not be there, but I still want that purchase. I still want them in my funnel. And then creative refresh and influencer boost. Influencer boost is a big one for us. Not many people are doing this at this level. One of the bigger brands, more like Movement and FabFitFun. A lot of these brands are utilizing influencers through their Facebook page, which we'll talk more about. So you might be able to see this automatic bid. The reason why I usually launch with automatic bid, not excluding anything, is mainly because I need to see if that audience is right with the creative. And after 3 days of exhausting budget, I know that there's scale. I know I'm going to get that return, and then we're going to move it into a manual bid. There's an app out here. Who knows what Companion Labs is? What does Companion Labs do? Breaks up multiple ad sets for you to get different bids, right? So when we kind of did it by ourselves, we knew our conversions were coming around between 10 and about 25 bucks. So what we did was we broke it along a $2 and $3 increment across our best performing creative, best performing audience. And somebody's like, whoa, like you're competing against yourself. That's contradictory. Bid, budget, creative, targeting, those four get you a little segment of impressions you can be able to market to. So if you kind of look at it real close, we have a $25 manual bid versus a $13 manual bid. They're both getting delivery, right? Why are they getting delivery? I don't know, Facebook tells me. I'm just gonna make those bids and they're gonna continue to do it. But the point is, I'm gonna overbid, I'm gonna underbid, because I want to enter as many auctions as possible because our creative is so strong and it's gonna pull through in most of these battles. And another big issue, I think not many people talk about this, is manual bids don't always deliver. There's an issue of like, I have a $5,000 budget, $5,000 ad set, it's not delivering, what's going on? Well, it's not your fault, change your bid. Duplicate it, restart it, it's probably gonna get delivery after that. The second was gender and placement isolation. Contradictory to some things, but again, I want delivery. I have crazy text messages. The text message is exactly same word. Hey bro, sorry, site's down. Or, why is my credit card maxed out? So it's two different ways. I don't know which way I need to go, so I need to make sure that I am getting as much delivery as possible. So I can tell at the bottom, which was highlighted, sometimes when you leave them all together, you're gonna get delivery for females and men, or females and males. But for females, although most of the delivery was going there, my conversion, my ROAS was much better for men. I still want those. So I needed to break it out in this time to make sure I got most of that delivery. As well as desktop versus mobile. Obviously, I owe a lot of my success to like following what Ezra's taught. I always go mobile first. I always launch mobile no matter what happens, and then I kind of remarket with all placements after that. And this is kind of the result. Like we tested early, we iterated on knowing that females were purchasing more often than that, and that result came into obviously females being 78% of our revenue, 77% of total purchases. The last thing, which was creative refresh. So I'm gonna get raise of hands. Have you seen an ad like this? It's not sexy. It's not sexy at all. It's not a thumb stopper. But what it gets the point across, because what Zach was super clear on was, they need to understand that it's not a dog, any dog, it is your dog on socks. The amount of questions, I think you can speak to that. How many times do they ask?
Somewhere between like 100 and 200,000 emails asking us whether it's a specific breed or their dog. It seems pretty clear, right?
Your dog?
And I think we did a decent job with messaging, but clearly not even as good as it should have, right? But fundamentally, no, this ad was thrown together by me. Believe it or not, I'm not a designer. And this was launched with a post-engagement campaign, and it was scaled to 140,000 comments, 80K shares, 100,000 likes. This post brought in millions of dollars.
On that, you're telling me you're going to enter this ad into any auction and you're not going to win with that social proof? Psychologically alone, just knowing that how many people are commenting on it, you're going to buy just because of that. You're like, oh shit, 150,000 people got this? Okay, I'm on. I'll purchase a $40 pair of socks. Oh, I forgot to include that price one. Okay. And this is sort of like how we scale. So you find a great audience that's just converting consistently, right? Kind of get a little bit of creative fatigue because we're burning through tons of budget. So we had to make variations, slight variations, whether it's a headline test, whether it's a video instead of an image, but it still gets the whole point across. We're walking the customer right through what that creative is. So the point of it is getting very similar creative tests. New product positioning, so we can frame it a little bit differently. And then obviously we have an internal testing guide where if you want to talk about more, it's similar to what we talked about earlier. It's not as AI driven or systematic, but we have specific days in which when we launch, how we iterate and what metrics we're watching, and we have a great deck. So if you want to get in touch with me after that, we can definitely talk about it.
Now actually, if you just jump back one.
Go ahead.
So something actually relevant here that surprised me was, I mean, everyone knows about Facebook's text overlay bullshit, right? Right, well, here's the thing. So Facebook actually changed the policies sometime mid last year where it limits deliverability, but it will go through. They used to just not let you run it. Correct, right? So now there's like, little text, some text, there's like way too much text. All of them will deliver. There's like one category where they just won't deliver. And that's actually what I wanted to point out. Even though this fell into the some text and there's like an alert every single time, this will limit your deliverability, the impact of the messaging in this ad is so strong that it was so effective and thus worth it to continue to run, which we still put budget behind it to this day.
So the last thing I have to talk about is influencers. There was a great talk right before me about influencers, but specifically is leveraging Facebook pages to run your image against their audience. So specifically, let me go back and do it. You're going to find your influencer that There's two reasons why people purchase: price and recommendation from someone they trust. For instance, we took I Heart Dogs. That's probably one of the biggest Facebook pages there are. Great people to work with. And we said, hey, like, let's do a deal. I want access to your Facebook page. I want advertiser access. I want you to post organically, and I want to put my ad dollars behind it. Because I knew what audience we're going to convert. I know if I put my dollars in my targeting with their branding of how loyal their customers were, oh man, I'm going to find extra scale. So which we found was on our way to the $7 million, we got a little boost of $134,000 just by running the same image to a different influencer's page. This is a strategy that a lot of people aren't leveraging right now, mainly because they don't know how to talk to the influencer. Because I don't want pay for post. You can I'll pay you $100. You can post all day, all you want. But what I want is I want that advertiser access. That's where the goods are. So we control that. We know our targeting. We know who we want to hit. We want to run through our lookalike audience with running through someone that they trust. And these were the socks we went through. So you can tell I Heart Dog in the corner. This was in partnership with PupSocks. This engagement was just obviously off the hook. It was great. And this is kind of like when I talked all the way at the beginning, 6 creatives that really did the trick were these 6. So at the prospecting level, your pup on socks videos, it was a ride. I'm telling you, it was a ride. At the prospecting level, to pull off a around a 3.7, 3.8, that was special. Again, our remarketing, Black Friday, big deal. These were really good feed stalkers.
And that, just jump back, that Black Friday ROAS, the middle ad there, I mean, we're talking about like a 6-figure spend day, similar to the Cyber one. We use a similar ad on Cyber. I know that on Black Friday alone, we brought in just under $500,000 on Cyber on day, just another $400,000 on day. So that's a significant ROAS. So that's good.
All right, hopefully you enjoyed that episode with Zach and Nick. Everybody at the event completely loved them. And if you want more stuff like that, check us out at trafficmasterylive.com. On another note, I wanted to let you know about some of the other podcasts that have been launched recently. We had Commander Mark Devine, who's a Navy SEAL, founder of SEALFit, came and spoke at one of my mastermind events, which is a group of my clients that are all high 6, 7-figure, and even 8-figure businesses, predominantly in the health, fitness, nutrition, and e-commerce space. Mark came and spoke to them, and he talked a lot about the power of purpose and the warrior mentality around that. So I think you might like that. Also, Colin O'Brady. Colin O'Brady is a 3-time world record holder. He just wrapped up another world record, and I'm just chuckling because my son, my 4-year-old, almost hit the little tennis ball over that. But he's got an amazing story of tragedy turning to triumph, and how he literally almost died in a third world country, and he got a jump rope that was lit on fire, wrapped around him. So amazing story, and I just was able, it was a very easy interview because he had such good stories to share. So check him out as well. So that's it. If you like this, leave a review, share it with a friend, or just send me a note on Facebook. I'm around on Facebook all the time, and even on Instagram. Ed O'Keefe 12 is my handle, hashtag, whatever you want to call it. All right, that's it, everybody. Have an amazing day, and like always, I appreciate you, and be awesome. Peace out.